Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to Our Power is Within, a weekly podcast where you will hear inspiring testimonials by everyday people who have healed their bodies and minds of chronic pain, illness, and dis-ease. Learn about different modalities for neurohacking, rewiring your brain, upgrading your mind, and healing your body so that you can take your power back. I'm your host, Chas Smith. Let me start today by asking, what is good? What is good in your world today, in this moment, in this week, in this month, and in this crazy year? Because where our attention flows, energy goes. So when we can shift our focus to what is good, we tend to create more of the good stuff. So think of something today that you are absolutely grateful for, that you can feel in your heart. Speaking of hearts, I read a powerful quote the other day in a book by a neuroscientist, Dr. Amen. It says, "Whatever is good for your heart is good for your brain. And whatever is bad for your heart is bad for your brain." It's crazy how the more we learn about the brain, the more we realize that it is an absolute power center for every system in our body. And with that said, we must also never underestimate the power of our heart, because our heart is always sending messages into our brain, which then impacts the brain and the messages sent to the body. A beautiful, easy tool to help rewire our brain and restore well-being is a tool called heart coherence. There are so many ways to implement this tool and get into heart coherence and find this rhythm. But a really simple way to start is just spending 5 minutes where you breathe rhythmically in and rhythmically out, imagining that you're pulling your breath through your heart center, and that as you're inhaling, you're breathing in compassion or appreciation or care for yourself. So maybe you inhale for 3, 4, or 5 seconds and exhale 3, 4, or 5 seconds. Slow, calm breaths through the heart center. I breathe in compassion. I breathe out compassion. I know there's so many people that say they can't meditate. And what often comes with that is a preconceived false idea of what meditation should be. And there's that tricky S word, should. Meditation can be experienced in so many different ways, and there's no amount of time that it has to be. So my challenge for you this week, especially if you're one of those people that say they can't meditate, just try it on 5 minutes a day. That's it, 5 minutes a day. Sitting, lying down, doesn't matter, whatever makes you comfortable. But do mindful, heart-centered breathing, focusing on inhaling compassion into yourself through your heart and exhaling compassion to all others. Try it out 5 minutes a day for 1 week and then let me know how it goes. Once again, I am blown away. I absolutely adore our guest today, Dani Fagan from England, and I believe you will adore her too. She is fun, funny, real, and wise. She has a heart of gold and so much compassion. Her generosity to create a beautiful website that is so incredibly thorough and well organized to help people on their healing journey is amazing. It's a beautiful, generous gift that she has given this whole community that so many of us only wish we had years ago when we began our journey. Dani has also recently started a virtual reset and restore yoga class that is tailored specifically to the TMS community and anyone who could benefit from calming down their limbic system. I hope you will love our conversation as much as I enjoyed it. For my new listeners, we will talk today a lot about TMS, which does stand for Tension Myoneural Syndrome. This is a term coined by Dr. Sarno, Dr. John Sarno. It's basically representative of a mind-body syndrome when We experience dis-ease in our bodies as a result of a mind-body-soul connection rather than purely physiological. You will find links in my show notes as a reference if you would like to learn more, if it feels like something that you can relate to. All right. Before we do get into the chat today, I did want to say that if you have found value in any episode, I do ask that you please hit subscribe, rate and review, and help me spread the message. It takes only a few seconds on your end, and it means the world to me. With that said, let's get to it. All right. Welcome, Dani. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
It's a total pleasure. It's a really, really fun day to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this.
Awesome. Me too. I'm really excited to chat with you and have you share your story with the listeners. And I'm really excited to get to talk to them and share with them about your amazing website that I have completely geeked out on from, one side to the other.
Thank you.
I actually think it might be the most informative, packed, beautiful website that I have ever seen on self-healing and TMS specifically.
Oh, that's very sweet of you to say. Thank you.
You are welcome. So I think what we'll do is just get started by having you give a little chat about your story, the background, where you, kind of when and where you started feeling the pain, your associations, and the route you took that led you to healing.
So this is about 5 years ago now. In about 2015, I started to get back pain, and it was kind of gradual. It came on slowly. I don't really remember, something happening kind of overnight or pulling something or anything like that. That you hear some stories of people just having this great big acute onset. I just had this niggling back pain that I thought was something disc related or whatever, and it just never got better. So I started seeing doctors and traumatologists and that kind of thing, spine specialists, and I got the usual runaround of you're just going to have to do these specific exercises, or you're going to have to do physical therapy and stuff like that, chiropractic care. So, I was given some painkillers and just the basic stuff, like, nobody really had any sort of solution for me. And that kind of went on for probably, I'd say, 6 months or so, maybe 7, 8 months of just to and fro to doctors and taking tablets and stuff. And then one night in December of that same year, I remember I woke up in the morning, and this was literally just from lying in bed, like nothing happened. I woke up and I literally couldn't really move. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't stand. It was just like I had this hot machete in my back. It was the most excruciating pain I've ever experienced. And, you wake up first thing in the morning, you need to go to the toilet. And I was like, okay, I need to go do a pee, and I can't stand up, can't walk. So I had to crawl along the floor, and I was screaming in agony. And my boyfriend was just like, shit, we're going to have to call an ambulance. And what on earth's happened? Like, you must have had a slipped disc, or who knew what, I don't know what we thought. Like, it's just gone completely out of control. Something's split, something's broken, whatever. So that was like the worst of the worst, how it got. I didn't end up getting the ambulance. I just kind of, first of all, peed on myself, and then second, it's like it kind of subsided a little bit, enough for me to crawl onto the sofa and just kind of lie there for the rest of the day. And that was, I guess that lasted maybe about 2-3 weeks or so, because I guess at the time, it's kind of hard to remember the details now, but I guess at the time it was like, I was afraid of what was happening. So the fear of something being broken or being, disabled forever, or there's all these fears that run around in your head when something like this happens to you. You'll know this well yourself, that you kind of imagine the worst. And I'd been given so much of a runaround by doctors that I was kind of like, this is it for me. Like, no one's going to fix me, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, a little bit after that, I went to see some like proper surgeons and really try and push this, because I was getting nowhere with the doctors that I was seeing, even though I had like 2 or 3 different opinions from different doctors and stuff. I thought, I'm just going to take this to the surgeon and like just get a really serious opinion, because I'm just sick of this. Like, something must be able to be done. They must be able to do something about what's going on. I had MRIs and stuff, and they found herniated disc and disc degeneration on the same disc and slight scoliosis in my spine. And then obviously at that point, as soon as you have that diagnosis, like your whole scenario is centered around that particular issue. Mm-hmm. So even though I could feel in my back, like the muscles were completely spasming and like clenching, and just like it didn't, I'd have no idea what a spine like issue would feel like, but I could feel my back. I couldn't stand up right. I could feel it clenching. I could feel it throbbing. It was burning. Like, it felt muscular. But then what am I to say? I'm not a doctor. So the surgeons thankfully said, there's no point operating on you, because, you're not bad enough, basically. So I just got really pissed off at that point, and I was like, well, how bad do I need to get? I can't sit up at a desk, I can't go to work, I can't drive, I can't sit anywhere, so I got the runaround a little bit at that point with the surgeons and the doctors, and it was just it was a bit of a dead end, to be honest. It felt like, I'm just gonna have to live with this forever and just not be able to walk. And I guess that fear factor definitely kept me stuck in that situation. Now that I know what I know, that now is quite obvious that was exacerbating the problems for me, for sure. So in and around that time, maybe a little bit after that, I think it was probably 3 or 4 months after that started to happen with the MRIs and the surgeons and all that, I saw a friend of mine, post on Facebook about having a bad back, and one of her friends had recommended this book, Healing Back Pain by Dr Sarno, and I was like, I was so desperate at this point. I'd just kind of given in, really, on not giving up on life, but just like, there's nothing that can be done for me. I'm just going to be having taken painkillers and lying down my whole life. Like, this is it. I might have to go into a wheelchair and all that. And I thought, you know what? This has come recommended by this person. A couple of other people commented on that post as well, saying, yeah, the book's amazing, it'll change your life. I thought, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. I'm desperate. Like, I'll try anything. And they do say, a lot of people say this that are in TMS recovery, like, or any sort of stress illness recovery, that when you're at your most desperate is when you actually have open heart, open mind to different things, right? Like, if someone would have given me, the instruction of reading a book right when that massive acute attack happened, I would have been like, you're fucking crazy. I'm not reading a book. What are you talking about? I need surgery or whatever, Give me an injection, remove my spine, whatever.
Yeah. But then in hindsight, after you read it, you're like, damn it, why didn't I learn about this 6 months ago?
Yeah, for sure. But I definitely wouldn't have believed it. I don't think. I would have thought, well, do you know what? Actually, that's probably saying that's probably not true, because when I read that book, it was literally like reading an autobiography. There was so much of me in that book. It was ridiculous. I was like, does this guy know who I am? How is this crazy? He wrote this years ago. How is this me? How the fuck is my, excuse me, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
Cuss away.
How the fuck? Yeah, let it out. How the fuck am I? How the fuck is this? How does he know? How am I in this book? How is this possible? How is my brain and my personality and my experience making my body feel like it's bust in two? I just couldn't wrap my head around it. But it made it also, in the same breath, it made complete sense, because that was me, and I knew that this was what was going on. It was like the holy grail.
Absolutely. You know what's funny is 3 things you said that every single person I've ever talked to that discovers the work of Dr. Sarno says is when they first discover the book, they're like, all right, I have nothing to lose. You said that. I have nothing to lose. I'm desperate. And what you just said, it is literally like, how could he have written this book about me?
It's nuts.
That's how I felt when I read it 7 years ago. Is like, oh my gosh,
it's amazing.
This is me to it. Like, it's like a slam the book down. This is me.
Exactly. I think I did that with every turn of the page, actually. Like, hey! And I remember reading it and turning to my partner and reading out sentences from it, like, babe, look at this. Right, it says this, 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 and this. And he was like, you're fucking joking. No, and this. And, that weird thing, that other weird thing I've got, it says that as well.
Absolutely. Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah, that was like, oh my God, the revelation of the century. I thought this guy is a genius, and he is a genius. Like, I still say it to this day. Sarno is like my saint and savior. So I read the book, and then I was kind of like, I was convinced that was what was going on. It made perfect sense. But then I was like, well, what now? I went online and I did a load more searching on him, and he's got other books, and then the other reviews of the books were like kind of same as that book. And I thought, you know what, I don't need to read probably loads more books about this. I know this is me, but I just need to know what I need to do next. So it was kind of tricky to find those answers at that point. I did find some stuff online, but it was kind of a little bit disjointed, a little bit here and there, and I was just so desperately scrambling for information. I wanted someone to just go, do this. This is the guidebook of how you need to, these are the techniques you can try. These are the steps you need to take. And eventually I did find that after kind of digging again. Basically what happened was I read that book and my symptoms subsided a little bit, and I started taking his direction of going back to physical activity and getting a bit of the joy back in your life and not feeling like you're dying and all that kind of thing. So it did give me partially part of my life back. So I didn't feel as desperate. I didn't feel as busted up forever. I started to see my friends again and bits and bobs like that. So it did sort of give me a certain amount of my life back. So I didn't feel limited so much anymore. So it wasn't like I was desperately searching for the next step at that point. It was like, okay, I'll figure this out and let's see how this goes. I'll get back to physical activity and stuff in the meantime. And then we lived in Spain at the time, and we were planning our move to England, and that all got in the way, and we were selling our house and all that sort of stuff. So my focus was elsewhere. And then, long story short, it kind of came back. It came back in bouts. The flare-ups and the spikes came and went, and it was never resolved, but it did get a bit better after reading the book and getting back to activity. But it was still really shit. Anyway, so we moved to England. And I thought, when we're in England, I'll probably be able to find a mind-body practitioner or some sort of combination of physical therapist / TMS person. Or in Spain, it's really kind of backward in a way with these sort of things. There was nothing like that in Spain at all. And I thought, if we're going to get anywhere with this, it'll be best to do that when I'm in England. So I started to do that. Looked around here, and I found a physio close by to my house actually that said that they dealt with like mind-body issues, which was utter bullshit. They said they did like hypnotherapy, and they got to the root cause of your issues and all this kind of thing. I thought, that sounds quite good. Went to them, and they just gave me a load of fucking exercises and different muscle groups to work and cricked my back and all the rest of it, which, as you know, kind of gives you temporary relief, but then doesn't fix anything. So I then threw in the towel with that, because I'd spent it was about £40 a session, and I'd been there for about 6 weeks. And I thought, you know what, this is just money down the drain. It's not making me any better. I'm getting all these exercises to do at home, and it's just frustrating me, and it's not getting any better. So I said, right, I read the book again, and I said, this is it. I'm committing now. And I went down the rabbit hole online. To cut a relatively, long story short, I found Nicole Sachs' YouTube channel. So Nicole Sachs is a psychotherapist and author and teacher and talker and all that, and she promotes this program called Journal Speak, and basically it is an emotional discovery writing practice that you do once a day, and you basically offload all of your past experiences, your negative emotions, your raw, unfiltered, uncensored, the shit that you hold within that you buried your whole life, basically. So I found her work, and I started doing that relatively quickly from finding that work. And since finding her work and her podcasts and stuff, I was, joining her Facebook group, which is brilliant. Like, thousands of people just helping each other. It's the most amazing community. They recommended other tools. So I was like, following Dan Buglio on YouTube and started following different people, reading different books and all that. And then got, massively obsessed with the whole thing in healing. And as you do, you can get, you can become a student of your pain quite easily.
Oh, absolutely.
But then that turned into being a student of my healing. So that's good. I think you just have to go through the motions of this process, don't you? It's like, you can't really hack it. You can't really fast track your way to the end. You just have to walk the path and do all these steps to get where you need to be in your own journey. So yeah, it was probably about 2 months into journal speaking every day, doing her practice and her sort of format that she teaches, that I had pain-free days and days on end. It was like, I think 10 days, the first bout of full-on days without pain. It was about 10 days in a row, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is just magic. Oh my God, this woman saved my life. Like, I reached out to her and told her, and then I had spikes and relapses and stuff like that, as you do. But since then, since continuing to do that practice and continuing to learn and understand myself and know where my triggers are and really work through those things emotionally and just, know myself more and be more aware of myself and stuff, it's just stayed gone. So yeah, it's been a mad ride. But since finding all of those tools and since my own struggle of finding the right tools and stuff online, and just finding easy to use websites and, easy to understand resources and stuff, I just figured I need to put this stuff together in a really easy to understand format for people to just find, use, save, share, interact with, build a little community of my own as well. Maybe God knows where it'll go, but I just wanted to do all this stuff for free and put it all together for people to just easily find this stuff and easily see how it works in a credible, believable, no BS way, and it's all there for people to find. And I think that, if I'd have had that when I was in that situation struggling, I think I would have really appreciated that. So that was the idea behind that. And also as a thank you to the people that helped me, like Sarno and Dan and Nicole and all those guys that I followed and listened to, and Eddie Lindenstein from the Mind and Fitness podcast, and there's loads of other people that I followed and learned from during my journey. I wanted them all to have a little space together in one place that they could all live and share their shit on my website. So that was where that came from.
And it's thorough, and you do that. You have everybody on there in one place.
Yeah, I'm still adding people because obviously the net is quite wide with this work, but I started off with just what I used, and then now every week I'm kind of adding more stuff that I'm discovering, obviously other experts that exist that I didn't necessarily have contact with or use any of their work in my own journey, but I know that they're experts in their field and they've been, promoting their own work and stuff through this community. So I'm adding as much and as many as I can without it becoming really overwhelming. I don't want it to be a space where you go to the website and it's like, where do I start? What do I do? There's too much stuff here, but also, so I want it to be like a bit of a happy medium where there's lots of stuff for you to look at. There's plenty for you to, keep referring back to in your own journey and stuff like that. But just dropping my own sort of hints and tips that help me and bits and bobs like that. And, I'm still learning now. I'm still fascinated by the subject. So whatever I'm learning and whatever I find really useful or really, resource heavy or really juicy stuff, then I'll make a post about them and have them as a resource or an expert or whatever on there.
I love it. I love it so much. I mean, for those listening, I honestly feel your website, like I said at the beginning, it's not only extremely thorough, it's extremely organized and so easy to follow. And I just think there's a wealth of information to support people's journey. It'd be the first place I'd recommend anyone who asked for a recommendation of where to go.
That's very sweet. Thank you. I mean, the strength of it, I guess, is like the wealth of information that the experts are sharing in there. I've thrown in some of my own stuff in there from my own experiences, but the people that are really preaching and teaching the stuff that works have their own little space there. So that's that's the most important part. I think that, those people that really know what they're talking about and they've been doing this for years and years and years and have thousands of people that they've treated or helped, that they have another platform than just their own platforms to share their voice,
Absolutely. And that's true community. And I think that's what this is about in general in life. And I particularly love the healing community because it is so supportive and diversified and, we amazing. Hold space. So, and for me, it especially rings true because it's something that I've always been passionate about. It's not existent now, but back when I was a fitness coach and nutrition coach, I had a whole website that was literally designed to the same thing, all the other experts, the things that really resonated and worked for me, and giving them this extra platform and, supporting them and saying, hey, this person taught me this, or this is a really cool concept, or, check this out. And, but yeah, yours exactly. Did you have a background in like any kind of graphic design or computer stuff?
Yeah, that's my sort of day job. Yeah, until COVID-19 came and just burnt the house down. Yeah, that's my background. So I'm a graphic designer, web developer, digital marketer. That makes
so much sense.
Yes,
that all comes together.
Having to pay and employ someone to do all of that work for me as well. Yeah, that would have been impossible. And my partner is he's a software engineer as well, so he built like the back end and the functionality and the rest of it. And he did the brains, and I did the face and the content.
Yeah, because the graphics are amazing. So that makes sense. Yeah,
I think it helps as well when you're navigating something. If it looks nice on the eye, easy on the eye, it helps, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does for me anyway. I'm a bit of a visual junkie, so I think if you find something that's easy to navigate, it gives you the info you need, and it looks nice, then yeah, you're winning. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. I and listeners out there, I encourage you to check out her website. It's my TMS Journey, right? Is that correct?
Yes,
TMSjourney.com. It's beautiful. Yeah. And you can look at it on your mobile device, but I personally found it felt even more abundantly rich in information and navigation ability on the actual desktop. So
yeah, there's definitely a lot of content in there. Like I didn't hold back in terms of writing detail in my story and in the resources and stuff. I tried to keep the information light and key to when I'm sharing other people's resources. But when it came to telling the steps that I took, I thought it's best to be thorough and clear exactly what I did or didn't do than just skim over it and have people still wondering, because even though there's that much information on there, I still get a lot of the same questions over and over in the forums and stuff, like, what exactly did you do at this point, and what exactly did you do at this point, and how did you find this, and how did you find that? So I think even though it might take a little bit longer to read and all that kind of stuff, it's really important to be thorough with those things. So yeah, it's a bit text heavy, but then it's important stuff.
I agree. I mean, and you're answering the questions you had early on,
exactly.
for other people. Something that I saw on your website that I would love to just touch base on, I thought was so fascinating. So I first came about TMS or learned about it, I think it was 2013 or at some point. And yet you had a whole page dedicated to the hip flexor.
Oh yeah, the psoas.
Yeah. And all the research I've done, I've never seen this correlation, and it is mind blowing.
I love it. That's my favorite piece of thing. The psoas is like my favorite subject.
I would love for you to share. I mean, we can obviously direct people to read about it, but there's nothing that's better than hearing somebody's explanation or experience or knowledge of something. So if you could share a little about that.
Yeah, I was the same as you. Like, I had no idea this. I mean, I'd heard of the psoas. Like, if you're into any sort of fitness or you're into any kind of mobility stuff, you would have heard this word psoas bashed around. Like, it's it became a bit of a fashionable muscle for a little while. Like, oh, you've got to release your psoas and all this kind of shit.
You hear it in fitness all the time.
Yeah,
I came from that background.
Exactly. So, but for good reason. It is one of the sort of most powerful muscles in your body, in the sense that not only physically it keeps you sort of standing upright, it controls your legs lifting up and down, your side mobility and all the rest of it, But also, like, I'll tell you how it came about. I was, so part of my recovery journey, as I started to sort of find myself having pain-free days and knowing that there was this was going to be it for me, I was going to recover and I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I was like, oh my God, this is actually working, this is going to fix me. Not that I was broken, but it's going to get me out of this shit. I was like, I want to do, and this is something I've wanted to do forever, I want to do yoga teacher training. And I thought, I'll set myself this crazy goal because it sounds unachievable, and it'll give me something to look forward to and focus on, and have this sort of out of mind, out of body sort of thought about it. It's crazy. So I thought, okay, I'll set myself this goal. Anyway, long story short, I ended up doing the yoga teacher training this past March. Nice. So so that was kind of a nice little icing on the cake of recovery, to be able to do that and fulfill that dream. Anyway, I met this girl on the training. She's awesome girl from Sweden. Her name is Marte, and she's an acupuncturist. And I told her about my story as we got friendly on the course, and I was like, I have this thing called TMS and blah blah blah. And she understands my body connection, like in acupuncture and Chinese medicine and all that. It's all very similar sort of teachings and stuff. So she understood it fully, and she did some needling on me and whatever. And anyway, one evening we were sitting resting after class, and she said, show me exactly where your pain is, like where's this area in your back. So I was like, yeah, I know where it is, it's in my QLs, it's here when I lean over, and she was like, that's not your QL, babe. And I was like, all right, whatever it is. She was like, no, that's the muscle of your soul. And I was like,
your soul.
What? Tell me more. And by this point, we'd already had loads of woo-woo conversations. I mean, we're at yoga school, it's going to happen. So like, I was well into it. I was like, go on, yeah, what is this yoga of the soul? And my eyes just lit up. You can imagine, knowing that this thing had like ruined my life for the last 5 years. Like, oh my God, what is this woman going to tell me now? And I'd heard as well through class before that like, you hold emotion in your hips, and maybe if you do real hip opening exercises, you can get emotional and stuff like that. I've heard that before, but I didn't really understand the correlation. I actually thought it's probably a bit of bullshit. But I had experienced, people releasing emotion after like, trigger point massage and stuff like that. I knew that was a thing. Anyway, so she says, the muscle of the soul, basically your psoas muscle controls, and she said these magic words, your fight or flight response. And I was like, I'm sorry? Are you serious? And she's like, yeah. She didn't really say much more about it. She was like, yeah, it's like, well-known stuff in my circles. Like, yeah, basically that's one of the first places that you'll ever feel sort of, onset of pain from stress is in your back, for that very reason, because it connects. The psoas starts at, like, if you put your hands on your back and you feel like where the bottom of your last rib is, it starts there, it's connected to your spine, and it pours in sort of like a diamond shape down your back, so right in the area, my killer area, or was my killer area, down through your back, and then it goes kind of through the lower abs area and into your legs, so it comes all the way through from the back to the front. And those muscles, when you feel a threat, or there's a predator coming, or whatever scenario that you would need to flee from or fight for, those are the muscles that contract and get you ready to fight or run away. So they're the first muscle group to get that surge of the stress hormones or whatever's going on in your body. They get the message from your brain first to go, shit, we've got to go, we've got to be in action, let's tense up, let's get ready to fight or run away. So reading this, my mind was completely blown. You can imagine, this is like one of the biggest sort of light bulb moments of my life. And I thought, my God, this explains so much. So not only did I now know why I had this chronically cranked up, excruciatingly tight, sore muscles in that exact area of my back, but it also explained now why I couldn't really stand up straight when my back was spasming like that. It wouldn't let my body go into a straight line, because when your psoas muscles contracted, it turns your body into like an L shape, so it kind of like a seated position, you're sort of hunched over, right? So you can't actually a lot of the time I couldn't stand up straight at all, especially if I was getting up to walk somewhere. I had to always be in that sort of seated position. So not only after finding this out, and I wanted to put it on the website and sort of let everybody else know about this information, I did more research on the psoas muscle, and it actually turns out that it's connected. Your diaphragm underneath your lungs is also connected to your fight or flight response. So that's also in turn like why you feel short of breath when you're under threat or stress. It expands or contracts. I can't remember which way it is now. To give your lungs lots of air to get ready to run or fight, but then it contracts again, along with your psoas, so it's tightened up and whatever. So that's where you get short of breath. You feel like your chest is you get chest pain. You think you're going to have a fucking heart attack. Your diaphragm is doing the same sort of thing as your psoas is. So it's just chronically tightened up and stressed out. So the more reading that I did said also that can be, not only affect then your back, your breathing, but also because it's like runs right the way through your hips. And round by your digestive organs, your reproductive organs, it can create chronic pelvic pain. It can create or have stuff to do with your digestive issues, your constipation, and even frequency in urination and stuff like that. Like all of those things are connected in that area. Like not only does that muscle run through, but obviously the fascia that connects all those things, the blood vessels, the nerves, all of that stuff in that same area coming out of the vagus nerve is all connected. And that is like the powerhouse of your stress responses in that area. So I was like, oh my God, this stuff is like golden material. How did I not know this? Like especially knowing exactly where my pain was and the amount of PTs that I'd been to see and the amount of chiropractors and the amount of physicians that I'd seen. Like surely someone knows this. I didn't have to wait to go to yoga school and have this, this young yogi friend of mine tell me this thing. Well, I guess it was the divine timing or whatever, but amazing. Like my mind was just completely blown. So I thought this, people need to know this. And back pain is so common in TMS. It's like the most common symptom that there is. So yeah, it explained a lot. So I thought, and sometimes, it's not great to focus so much on symptoms and focus on where they are and make sure that your mind isn't focused on that area or discussing your pain and all these symptoms and all that. And I get that, but for me, like I'm a bit of a, I guess, academic-y minded person, science-backed sort of person. Like I believe in the TMS thing 100%, but also if I can just understand something a bit better, whether that's scientifically or however something's described, then I'd really like to know a bit more. It will help put my mind at rest or help explain why things are. Then that really works for me.
And I think there's a lot of us who are that way. I know I am. That's why it blew my mind, because I'm the same way. I geek out on the science and anatomy, and I love knowing why and connecting dots and seeing patterns. And that's why being in, spending almost my entire adult life coaching and teaching fitness. And I mean, I was like the person who was known to be so good at the anatomy and, understanding the connection of everything and movement. So that's why this was just a massive light bulb and just a deeper understanding, affirming what I already knew. Right. Mm-hmm. But it's like, oh no shit.
Yeah. Like, that's exactly what I felt.
This is it, and what's funny is I've had TMS in some capacity since I was a young child, but like most of us know in this world that sometimes it's knocking softly and sometimes it's intermittent, and eventually we get to this point where it's really loud.
Exactly.
And the first catalyst that was really loud for me, sure enough, was pain in my hip. And so I just found that super interesting. And coming from that fitness background, it makes sense why you get all these clients who always have these chronic tight hips, and no matter what releases we do and how much we trigger point them or roll them out or massage them, they go right back to tight. And that's because we're still addressing it from a physiological standpoint.
That's right. Yeah, it's crazy. I think a lot of the time, like once I was doing the yoga course, obviously we were working on specific muscle groups and anatomy and stuff like that. And now I'm working yoga into this TMS world as well, to try and find my own sort of role and position in this community, I am working on, focusing on settling muscle groups down and working on, stretching stuff out and things like that, but in more of a sense of like getting back to trusting your body and getting back to comfortable movement and that kind of stuff without fear, rather than, this is now going to stretch your psoas and your TMS is going to go. That's nothing to do with it whatsoever. This is not a substitute for, the emotional work whatsoever. So like you say, if you try and stretch something, you try and roll something out. I had a massager that I used on my back so much that I had calluses on my back from this thing.
Oh, wow.
Like my psoas was on like soft and hot or cold and hard. It was like during the day it would either be excruciatingly painful or really hot on in the massager and under this calloused mess. Yeah. So yeah, the more you focus on an area physically, and I did the roller, I did all of that shit, the lacrosse ball and all that. Like the more you stress it out, the worse it's going to be. Basically, it might feel temporarily better with your heat pad and all that kind of stuff you put on it. It will relax the muscle. It will feel great for a while, but you can guarantee by 8 o'clock tonight it's going to be painful again. So, yeah.
I mean, you can't exactly. It's just you can't just. I think it's great what you're doing, adding in the yoga, the stretching and all that lightly as like an addition to, because it's also, it can be very soothing and relaxing in its own way.
That's the main point. Yeah, that's the main point. So the parts of yoga that mostly helped me were the, obviously getting back to some sort of physical movement without fear, based on Sarno's sort of main teachings. But the main points of yoga that helped me were the nervous system settling elements, which is, yoga is mind-body mastery. Basically, it is the perfect thing to do when you're needing nervous system settle down and you're needing gentle stuff and breathing and meditation. So the 3 parts to yoga that I'm going to be focusing on, which are just the 3 parts of yoga in general, they're gentle movement, they are meditation and breath work. So those meditation and breath work were really key for my recovery, and meditation is one of the biggest parts of journal speak as well that Nicole teaches, her own practice of writing, but then followed up by meditation and self-soothing afterwards. So for me, knowing that yoga was my key to getting back to movement safely, and trusting in my body and being confident in my body again, along with the meditation and breath work as well, like it's the perfect combination for TMS recovery, no matter what symptom you have and no matter how much ability you have, or whether you used to be a triathlete or you used to, you can't actually get about and you're in a wheelchair, or you can't actually move, you're sitting down. I'm going to be able to offer something for everybody in this. It's about settling the nervous system and trusting your body. And also just being in presence of people that are in the same journey as you. Like, I think that'll be really valuable for people to be able to experience as well, rather than only sort of communicating on forums and things like that,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree. That's beautiful.
Let's see where it goes. Hopefully it'll be helpful for people and keep me out of trouble.
I think it already is.
I hope so.
So I had a question. In kind of just going back to your story and where you've been the last 5 years and what you've learned, the lessons along the way, all this stuff, what would you say is the biggest gift that you got from your pain?
Wow. The biggest gift, I think, is it's taught me that I'm okay exactly as I am. Like, it's taught me self-acceptance and radical self-compassion. I think that's probably the biggest thing, because that encompasses all areas of this recovery for me. I used to, make everybody happy before I made myself happy, put on a mask for every different person in my life or every different friend I had, not drastically, but enough that I was putting myself probably last, making sure that everybody else was all right before. I was never enough, not good enough, or people won't like this or that, all that kind of bullshit. Like, that has drastically reduced now with this work, and that is because of the pain. Like, the pain has showed me who I really am, as profound as that might sound. Like, it's it's really crazy how much, doing this work has just literally shows you who you really are, and that person and that entity is great. Like, what you're trying to cover up anything for that, because you don't think people will accept you, or you don't think that that's good enough, or whatever bullshit scenario that you have in your head. Like, yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Beautiful.
That I'm okay as I am, like, I accept that.
We are, and we
We're
all
enough.
deserve to learn that about ourselves.
Yeah, we're more than enough, and we're all weird and cool in our own little strange ways. And yeah, I don't battle against myself anymore. Like I used to think that, oh my God, I'm, my anxiety and my this and my perfectionism, and everything was a bad trait. Like, that's bad. I need to change that. I should be this. I shouldn't be that. And now it's just like, who fucking cares? I am who I am, and this is, like it or leave it. That is what it is.
That's got to feel freeing.
Oh God, yeah, massively, and like empowering as well, because this, like we said before, this work is all on your own shoulders. You can learn from the experts, and you can learn from other people like me that have been through it and stuff, and yourself. But at the end of the day, all of this work is your responsibility to do, and you have to look inside your own life, and no one else can see that. No one can really look inside you and go, "This is what you need to work on." You have got to go and look for that yourself and figure that out. So throughout that process, you'll find out things about yourself that you might not like, but then eventually you'll accept them, and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I always feel like this journey is about a self-love journey, coming into self and just learning to love and accept ourselves.
That's exactly what it is. Self-compassion and self-love in this journey is number one. And you don't really figure that out, I think, until much later, because you're so bothered about pain and pain and pain and pain and pain and reducing my pain and settling my pain and the stress and the anxiety and blah, 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 blah. Once that dials down, then you're like, oh, I see. And you see something different when you look in the mirror. And it's weird as well, because other people have said to me, like, you look so different. What have you done? Like, what's happened? And I was like, well, I let my grey hair grow out, for one, because I don't give a shit about that either anymore. But like, dude, so many people, especially recently, have just said, my God, you look so different. Like, what's changed? And I was like, well, I've ditched all of that shit out of my life that I was just constantly concerned about. I guess it makes you look a bit more rested. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it probably changes your entire aura,
That's exactly it. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, it is that. And I think now as well, like when you do this work, and you've probably felt the same way, that you actually sense other people's energy a lot better as well. Like I said this to the ladies on that interview I did a few weeks ago, like, sometimes now when I meet people or I see people from a long time ago that I haven't seen for a while, like, you can kind of see their trauma before you see who they really are. Like, oh, I know why you're like that now. I know, like, I think I know why you hide that, or I think why you're anxious like that, or something like that. If you know enough about someone's past, then you're kind of like, oh yeah, I get that, makes sense now, I understand that. And it also makes you tolerant a bit more of people and their weird ways, if you understand them a little bit more, and you can understand why. You can see people, like your own family is a good example, through a different lens. Like I can understand and appreciate a little bit more now why that drives me crazy about you now, because you've been through X, Y, and Z as well, instead of just being really annoyed with them.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. I mean, any time that we're working on a journey of self-compassion and self-love, that reflects outward. We mirror that into the world. So when I can have compassion towards myself, I can have it towards other people.
Yes.
And even though I can have compassion or a level of love for them, it doesn't mean if they're toxic, I have to let them into my world.
Oh, 1,000,000%. You hit the nail on the head there. Definitely not. You can see and accept parts of them if you want to, but you can also set a great big fat boundary and go, no, I'm not having that anymore. Like, no, that doesn't fit with that is not my energy. As someone said to me the other day, this is the perfect mantra now. This is not my energy. So you keep your own little energetic bubble boundary around you, don't you? Like, I've made this piece now, no one's going to burst this, thank you.
Exactly. This is so fun. Dani, I have one more question actually, and this is for the listeners, and based on everything that you've kind of gone through in your experience and your journey, if you could tell anyone out there who's stuck in their rut right now, who's in that hopeless place, who's where you were 5 years ago, feeling mad at the pain and angry and frustrated and hopeless and not, feeling, the fears, what advice would you give? What message would you send?
I guess the biggest issue I had in those days was lack of belief, I guess, and trust in the fact that this would work for me. No matter what, success stories I read and literature that I read, etc., like to just let your guard down, put your weapons down, believe that this will work, believe in the power that you have within yourself. And it's hard to say this to recommend to someone because until you experience it, it's really hard to believe it. But just maybe borrow, and Nicole and Dan have said this a few times themselves, like borrow our belief for now if you don't believe it. Put your wall down and just try it. Try this work for a while and just believe in your own ability and yourself enough to be able to do this work, and you'll come through it. Like that, the belief thing and the trusting in yourself was a big thing. I just thought I was so used to relying on doctors and relying on other people to fix me and relying on other people for support and relying on I never in a million years knew that I had the ability within me to do this. And also off the back of that as well, it's a slightly separate thing but related, like don't be afraid of looking at your past experiences and things that you think are your dark side, are they going to haunt you forever, or actually experiencing your negative memories or experiences in your life just lets those feelings come to the surface and lets them go again. They don't stick around, they don't stay forever. The bad feelings in your life are meant to be experienced just as much as the good feelings in your life. And you can't just think positively and just focus on the good and just aim high and all that kind of self-motivational bullshit that you hear all the time. That's not reality. Like if you can just open both doors of your house, open up the good door and open up the bad door and let it all just come and go, then that will change your life. Like that, just being able to experience the negative feelings and not fear them and not think you're going to get stuck there is a big thing. And I think that's a big barrier for a lot of people than getting into some of these healing modalities and journal speak and stuff like that. Like so many people that I recommended this to is like, yeah, fuck that, I'm not journaling, I'm not looking at my dark shit, are you crazy? Like, why would I want to do that? Well, then stay as you are.
Yeah. But you want to do it because it actually leads to compassion. I mean, that's my experience is I have all these emotions come up. And then by the end of it, I'm like, oh my God, I want to hold that little girl inside of me and say, I'm sorry that I never acknowledged this.
Yeah,
I'm sorry
exactly.
I never acknowledged your pain, and you realize she just needed a voice.
Yeah. She just needed a voice. And it's such a beautiful thing to think as well now that I love this visual that you're now at whatever age you're at when you find this work and you start this sort of healing journey, that you come back to yourself to save yourself. Like that little person's been waiting there for you for so long, voiceless, like you say, and you've just come back and, reached out your arms and gone, I'm here now and it's all right. We're going to be all right. And that is, it's a really beautiful image, and it still kind of chokes me up to think about it, but it's so true. Like you're literally coming back from the future to save yourself. It's amazing. So powerful.
Yeah, I know. It just makes me like tingle inside just thinking about it.
Right.
And I just want it for everyone in the world.
It's such important work, and isn't it? It's kind of like, how does not everybody already know about this and have this, know that they can heal so much of the shit in their lives, whether they have pain or not. I think everyone experiences TMS in one way or another, whether they have pain or not. They have, anxiety, they have buried traumas, they have buried experiences, buried emotions that just need to be felt. And that's really how simple it is just don't be afraid of your shadow side, or however you want to call it. It's not to be turned away from. It's like, just let that in and befriend it, and your life will be so much better.
I agree. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom, your story, just for being vulnerable and for making a difference. And it's
my pleasure.
Message.
It's so important.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the most important message that people can hear right now.
Well, absolutely. If we can just touch a few lives with this, then it'll be so worth it, because they might tell another, 100 people or whatever, and exponentially it'll grow further. So yeah, as many people that can get this message, the better. Even if they don't necessarily believe it, you plant a seed in someone's head, and then when they need it and they're ready, then they'll act on it, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dani, where can people find you? I know we already talked about your website,
Yeah.
but where else can they find you? Where are you at? Where are you hanging out these days?
I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. The links to those are in the top part of my website. So, or you can just search my TMS Journey on Instagram and Facebook. I think it's my TMS_journey on Instagram, and just my TMS Journey on Facebook. And then obviously my personal profiles are both Dani Fagan on Instagram and Dani Fagan on Facebook as well. So you can find me there. I'm on LinkedIn and shit like that as well. If there's anybody that's like super fancy that wants to get link up with me on LinkedIn, then yeah, fair enough. If anyone wants to give me any design work, that's great too.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what are you up to these days? Mostly just trying to get this balance of the yoga and the mind body, or
exactly. So now I've literally this week just been working on some video content. I've got some new gear, lights, cameras, and stuff like that. So I'm going to be offering some live yoga classes. I'm just figuring out the best sort of time of the days and group sizes and stuff to do to be able to launch that program for people to enroll into. So at the moment, it's looking like it's going to be a couple of classes a week, depending on how much interest there is, on live stream. Which will be a combination, as I said, of yoga, breathwork, and meditation. And then towards the end of those classes, there's going to be like a little sort of live circle where we can all chat together. People can post questions and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be a nice little ending to those classes. And then I'm going to launch some bundle classes, or maybe even a course, like an online course, like a 4-week, 5-week course for people to join into and stuff like that. So that's just, I'm tying up the last details of that now. So there'll be information on that coming soon. But I'm posting out some mini videos and mini stretching routines and stuff on my Instagram at the moment. So if you want to take a look at those, then just follow me on Insta and you can start that now.
Yes, absolutely. And I highly encourage everyone to do that. She has awesome like tips and tricks and videos, and she just gives out a lot of information that I feel so valuable. So definitely look her up. I'll put the links in the show notes. And
great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you one more time, and I look forward
You're
to
welcome.
keeping in touch.
Yeah, it's been such a great chat with you. Thank you for inviting me on. It was really nice to talk to you.
Absolutely. Enjoy your day.
Thank you, Angelo.
All right, self-healers, that's a wrap. Another awesome chat with another awesome person in the books. Wow, I feel so blessed. It's awesome that all I get to do is interview these amazing people, learn so much, and then share it with all of you. I hope you found value and inspiration from Dani today. I know I did. And if you feel this message resonated with you, once again, please rate and review. And while you're at it, share it with a friend so that we can get the word out and empower each other in a time where we need it now more than ever. Look to the show notes for more information on Dani, her yoga class, and her epic, super duper helpful website. Lastly, just a reminder to practice the 5 minutes of compassionate, heart-centered breathing each day. See what happens. And until next time, smile and make this week great. I'm your host, Jasmine.